What's up, guys? It's CryptoPher at steemit.com, Crystal Bear Kalaikai at Facebook and YouTube.com, G_male_baby at Twitter, and that's really all you need to know. I'm kind of blinded right now. It's nighttime, and I bought this wonderful little trinket. It's. I wish I could show it to you, but I can't. But it'll blind the crap out of you. It's 600 lumen, so it's turning this car into daytime. I can't even point it at my face because it'll blind the crap out of me, but I need it for the light, so I'm going at an angle. But anyway, I just wanted to do a quick video because I have not done a video in a long time, and I know a lot of my followers are no longer following me because they're like, what's going on? And they probably think, well, since the crypto markets are crashing, then I'm out of doing videos, but that's actually false. I'm actually enjoying the crashing of the crypto markets because there's no opportunity like the opportunity now. And I'll get into that a little further. But real quick, I just want to wish a good Friday. A good Friday to all the Christians out there, my fellow Christians, especially my Catholics. Yes, Catholic is Christian, so I don't want my Christian friends coming at me like, oh, you separated them, so Catholic is not Christian. No, you got to remember your history. The church in the Bible was the Catholic Church. Jesus founded the Catholic Church. It's the only church that Jesus founded directly. So let's not get into that debate, because ultimately we all believe in Jesus, and as long as you believe in Christ, you're on the right path. And as long as you follow him, you're on the right path. So you have a chance of salvation. And today we celebrate the day that Jesus paid our dues for us. You know, we all sin, and he didn't. He was sinless. He was blameless. But he took the fall. He went up, and more than a fall, I mean, he was nailed up on a cross. The most painful of dues. So it's his way of saying, I love you. I'm going to take on what you couldn't fulfill. He gives us, God gives us covenants, right? He gives us, sorry, I had gloves on because my hands were dirty, so I'm protecting my stuff. But anyway, God gives us a chance. He gives us covenants. He gives us agreements that he makes with us, deals. And he says, here, if you do this, I'll do this for you. And he knows that we won't be able to fulfill it, but he wants it that way because he wants us to need him, not because he needs to be needed, just because he wants us to recognize who the creator is and who the bringer of all good things is. So he wants us to need him. He wants us to choose to need him. He doesn't want to force us to need him. He wants us to choose it. And so whenever we have a covenant with him, we have an agreement with him, and we fall short, he always comes to the rescue. And he saves us. All throughout the Bible, you hear it. There are multiple covenants that people just cannot fulfill. They betray God. They disappoint God. And who comes in the end to save them? God. So he's showing his great love for us by laying down his life for ones he considers his friends. He doesn't consider us slaves. We are no longer slaves. He calls us friends. Let me move it real quick. I'm going to semi-stare at this light because that shadow makes my nose look like Pinocchio. Or Cyrano Bergerac, or de Bergerac, or whatever you want to say. But anyway, so happy Good Friday, and then on Sunday we're gonna have Easter. So I wish you all a happy Easter, where Jesus then shows us, God shows us that we have salvation, we have victory because of his victory over death. He pays our sins and suffers death on our behalf. Even though he's God, he humbles himself and takes the form of a man. A man who doesn't consider himself equal with God, at least not to us. He doesn't show us that he's godly, but he speaks in a godly way with authority, and he shows us how to be, that we must be humble. Even though the breath of God is in us and we have a spark of divinity, we also should never ever equate ourselves with God. Takes our sins, dies for us, suffers the ultimate punishment, capital punishment, where the government puts him to death. And then on the third day, which is Easter Sunday, he rises again and basically conquers death, conquers the devil, and conquers the powers and principalities that we all struggle with. And that leads into what I'm talking about in this topic. This topic is about holding on for dear life, hodling, but not just in the cryptocurrency sense. Let me talk about hodling first in the gun sense, because we have such an assault on our rights. And it's everybody's right, but people don't realize it's their right because some people don't want to carry guns. See, but the beauty of freedom is you get a choice, right? So if you're the type of person who doesn't want to carry a gun, you can choose not to. You don't have to carry. You can choose not to. But a lot of people in the choosing not to carry side want everybody else to not carry too, and that's no longer freedom. They want to force us to not carry. So they want to eliminate the one option of being able to carry, right? When you don't have choices, there is no freedom. What makes America great is you can go into the store and you can go look at the store shelves, and if it's water you want, there are 50,000 different brands and types of water. You got vitamin water, you got bottled water, you got purified water, mountain spring water, distilled water. You know, all these different types of water, Kangen water, alkaline water, all this stuff that you can choose. It's not just water. Baby water, you know? It's not just one choice of water. It's freedom. Freedom is choice. You go to other places, there may not even be water on the shelves because they don't believe in freedom. The people vote for stupid things like some of the people who are here voting for, and they lose their rights and their freedom. And they're ignorant about what freedom is like because a lot of them are born into slavery and poverty in these other communist countries. And so they don't understand what it's like to have the kind of choices we have. And so they vote for the stupidity. And then what happens? Their government becomes more and more corrupt and more controlling. The keyword control, and you have it in gun control, right? The word control comes from the government where they want to control your life, where you're a slave. Because only a master controls a slave. That's why Jesus said, I no longer consider you slaves. As God, he does not equate himself with God. He says, look, I consider you my equal, my friend, my peer. I don't call you slaves because a slave doesn't know what the master is doing. The master controls everything. They control information like we're seeing the government do now. And they're doing it through things like Facebook. Guess what? We just found out Facebook is selling all our personal data that they collect and they're giving it to other people, quote government. But a lot of us people knew that already. And I say us, these are the people who are labeled as conspiracy theorists. And for years, I've been saying that our government controls too much. And now they want to control our guns. And now people are starting to figure it out and find out that our government has gone off the rails. A lot of people don't realize our country was founded on the ability to carry and hold our own weapons. Think about it. The people in the United States, when they first came here from Britain, from Great Britain, were British people. They were a colony of British citizens. And the crown or the king or the despot, the one ruler who wanted control over everything, started taxing every single thing. And at the time when the Second Amendment was, well, the Second Amendment wasn't even written yet. It was just the issue of, okay, now he's got the king is sending his military here to ensure that the colonists are following everything he says and does and everything he decrees. And the colonists weren't having it. They didn't want any part of it, whether it's the Boston Tea Party or whatever it is. They didn't want any of it. They didn't want to have to pay taxes. They didn't want stamp tax. They didn't want any tax, tea tax, none of these taxes. Because the government, when they get too oppressive, they try to give you things so that they sweeten the deal on their beating you up. It's like a pimp. And a lot of people don't realize their relationships are like being pimped by you're being like a prostitute where your spouse is abusive. They'll beat the crap out of you, but as long as they give you a little money for food and they give you a little sex every now and then when you need it, just to satisfy the hunger of lust, you'll be fine with being around that person that beats you. That's not my kind of relationship. I don't like people that are abusive, and I don't like to be abusive to other people, right? And so government can have that kind of relationship with their people. A good, caring government considers the people an equal, and that's what's beautiful about the United States Constitution. It begins out with the preamble, we, the people of the United States, meaning all of us, in order to form a more perfect union, a perfect being together in a country establish justice. So we have a justice system where people are supposed to have a right to a trial, right? They don't just consider you guilty until you prove yourself innocent from a jail cell. Good luck doing that, which they have in Mexico. Here, you're considered innocent first, and you have a right to justice or a trial by your peers, people just like you, people who understand your situation, and not trial by a government only. Government who wants to have power over you, so when you get in the hot seat, they can just say, you're guilty because I'm the government and I say you're guilty, right? We have justice. Well, tying that into guns, we have things called restraining orders, where people can file a restraining order on you, consider you a danger. The government doesn't verify whether you're a criminal or not. They just see that you're labeled as a danger, and they can take your guns without any due process, without any justice. So our Constitution is being undermined by all these people that come here and don't understand the justice. But anyway, we the people of the United States, in order to establish, or in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility. Okay, so we want everyone to be tranquil, but you can't have tranquility that easy unless people buy into the society. So first of all, we have laws, which is part of the justice, where people understand what our laws are and they follow them. And when people follow laws, you have tranquility. There's peace. There's trust. If people don't lie to you when you're doing business, you can trust them. And business goes smoothly. And prices don't rise because price is part of a factor that has to factor in the risk of doing business when you don't trust other people. If you want low prices, don't be a criminal. Don't steal. Don't commit fraud. Don't cheat. Do things honorably and prices come down. But when you don't trust, prices have to go up in order to compensate for the fact that somebody might steal the product, or even the product is coming in illegally. Like you talk about guns, you make guns, ban guns. Guns are property rights. It's a property rights issue there when they're trying to take your guns because you purchased something and now you're having the government seize it. How would you like that when the government can decide what to seize from you at all times? You buy a car, they don't like your car because it produces too much carbon, which is where we're going with this stupid global warming communism crap. There's no global warming. They now will label it climate change, but I got news for you. Climate change happened before humans were producing carbon dioxide. You go back, if you're a true scientist, you look in the geological record, which is the rocks. The rocks form different layers in time. You dig, you do paleontology and you dig for like bones and other things. You also see geology where they study the different layers of rock that form over time, just like a tree. As trees grow, they form layers as they get older and older. You can learn a lot by looking at the layers, and they know that there were ice ages before we had cars. Animals frozen in time. Mastodon, which is a fuzzy elephant, was chewing on grass and temperatures swung so rapidly the thing didn't finish chewing, didn't even get a chance to swallow. It froze solid with grass in its mouth and is perfectly preserved to this day, billions of years later. You know, and so they tell us that climate is changing, but got news for you. And they're saying climate is changing because you, as a human being, are producing too much carbon dioxide, and your car is going to be taxed now because it's an old car and it produces too much carbon dioxide. You need to buy a new one, so we're going to tax the old one so that you get taxed to death. We steal your money until you decide to buy the car we want from you. That's the kind of government we're getting. It's not tranquility by choice, it's tranquility by force. The only reason it's tranquility, it's submission. And submission, again, eliminates choice. You can only do what we tell you to do. You only get that one choice. So that's what gun control is about. It's that government controlling what you want to buy. You know, yeah. Is it weird if someone wants to buy a tank with a giant howitzer cannon on it? Sure, it's weird, but do I believe someone should be able to do it? Sure, I believe someone should be able to do it. Should they be able to drive it on the streets? If they're willing to pay for the damage that a tank causes by driving on the streets, by all means, we should let them do it. What are they going to do with a tank? You're going to blow up some houses? Okay, if they blow up some houses, then they lose their right, as any criminal has. If you decide to commit a crime against another human being, you should lose your rights. You lose your right to freedom, which is what happens when you get incarcerated. They put you in a cell, and that's part of the contract we have in society. If you do something wrong, you go to jail for it. That's already in the law. It's illegal to murder. You don't have to ban guns, ban tanks, ban explosives. Guess what? Austin, Texas. They banned explosives, and a guy was still using them to kill people. What are you going to do? Ban them again? You Democrats? You communists? It's already been banned. Murder's been banned. They still murder. Explosives have been banned. They still explode things. I got news for you. You cannot ban things that are in the mind unless you ban the mind. And that's where I think they're going ultimately, because that's oppression. When government starts to ban the mind, ban the person, it goes beyond property rights. And guns secure those blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. So we, the people of the United States, in order to establish a more perfect union, establish justice, so in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense. This is the biggest key right here for when you're talking about firearms. Common defense. We're going back to the revolution, okay? People say that we shouldn't have military-style weapons. Well, what was the American Revolution about? It was about the redcoats coming here. They were the king's military in red coats with their firearms and cannons and everything. They came here and they were oppressing the American people. The American people had matching guns and cannons. And they were, in fact, they weren't really matching. They were subpar. But the mere fact that the American people were willing to sacrifice their time, their lives, their money, and the risk of losing their families actually supported them because they knew it was for the defense of their children, their posterity, their generations afterwards, that they would fight such a force as the British Army, as the Redcoats. And they were willing to sacrifice it all for that. The people today don't understand the history of this country and why the United States is one of the greatest countries, if not the greatest in the world, with the most freedoms. Although now that's starting to change because people are voting in less freedom through regulation, having the government come in. People don't trust the government. They criticize whether it's President Barack Hussein Obama, President George H.W. Bush, President George W. Bush, or President Donald Trump, but yet they criticize those presidents, but they want those presidents to have the ability to take their property, in this case, firearms. Who's going to take the guns, you dummies? We're all people. Just because they're in government makes them more special people? Makes them smarter than you because they're in government? They got more balls than you because they ran for public office and you decided not to do it. I have the balls to run for office. I just can't stand politics on that level. It sickens me because I know that not the greatest people go into politics. My brother, an exception, of course. If you're watching, bro, I love you. But, I've been asked to go into politics, but I just can't stand it. You don't go into politics all the time because you care about people. My brother is an example of somebody who does. That's a rare situation. In fact, he went into politics because he contacted city government, and the city government hanged up the phone on him, didn't even respect his concerns. And he said, well, you know what? I could do better than that. So he decided to run for office. And I encourage you, as a citizen of the United States, not as an illegal immigrant, in a sanctuary city like California, or a sanctuary state like California, where the Democrat, communist, illegal criminals appoint illegal aliens to operate in our government. No, I'm talking about as a citizen, I encourage you to run because you have a vested interest. You pay taxes. You live in this country. You swore to defend, uphold, protect the Constitution. Why not do it as a politician or as a representative? I don't like that word politician. You can be a representative in government without being a politician, even though you still need to do polling and campaigning and all that stuff. But anyway, you let the government do everything and they don't represent you. Just because people are in government doesn't make them special. Doesn't make them better than you or smarter than you or more caring than you. Just because the government wants to give you free things doesn't mean that free thing is actually a gift, because somebody's got to pay for it. It's not free. It may be free to you, and it may be free to the government, but the government had to seize it from somebody else in order to give it to you. Even by taxation, taxation is theft. I can understand when you're forming a country, you need taxation to fund the infrastructure, the government, the people who work in the government. I understand that. And do I believe there needs to be a minimum portion of government? Yes, I do. I believe that there should be a restricted government, which is what we had. We're a constitutional republic here in America, which means we're not a democracy. A democracy is when a bunch of people vote and they win because there are more of them. So that means if they vote to kill you, they could do that. And that's what some of these gun control people are like. They want to vote to be able to kill you. They think that majority rules. And these are the same people that do the shootings. Think about it. The mentality of the people that want to take your guns, they want an unfair advantage over you. It's the same mentality as a person with an AR-15 that has a magazine with multiple cartridges in it, and you don't have any form of gun. You're in a gun-free zone. If you're in a gun-free zone and you're disarmed, that person who is armed has an ultimate advantage over you. And that's how the leftists are. They want to take your guns away. And the way they argue in a way that gives them an ultimate advantage over you in the public arena. They'll call you a racist. They'll call you someone who criticizes the children who are getting shot. You ingrate! How could you, uncaring? How could you criticize children who don't know anything? But they've been shot, so it makes them an expert because they got shot. You ingrate, you selfish person. And when they label you those names, they have an unfair advantage over you in a public sphere, because anyone watching who has no real opinion on it looks at you and you're like, that is kind of rude and ungrateful. But then did you hear how they talk about other people? David Hodges, or Hoggs, however he frickin' says his last name, he is a pig to me. He's a people in government. He's a communist. He's one of those kids that's posing to take guns away. But then when you hear him talk, he's an asshole. He calls us assholes and fuckers. But if you listen to him talk, he's like, yeah, it's like a cell phone. The old people don't know how to deal with democracy. Again, we're not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic. Educate yourself, kid, before you talk. You are not experienced enough to put your opinion forward. But anyway, he says, if these adults or these old people don't know how to use a democracy, we kids will show them how to do it. It's like those old fuckers, his words, having a cell phone. And they're like, I don't know how to use it. And we're like, give me that. Look at that. Right there, he reveals what an authoritarian is. Takes the cell phone out and figures it out in a second how to text. Because you're so smart. You're so smart. You can't start a business. Can't hold a job. But you're so smart. You outsmart those old people who started businesses and hold jobs and have degrees. You can't even get a degree. Can't even get accepted into college. The college you want. This is what we face. This is what we face. So, in order to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution, which sets forth the limits on the government that we have, because you need a minimal amount of government. I'm not an anarchist. To me, anarchists do not understand what anarchy is. Anarchy is you do what you will, which is basically what Luciferians like to teach. They like to teach the Satan ideas, that you do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. But that's democracy. Democracy is you do whatever you want as long as you're in the majority. That's even communism. Do whatever you want as long as you are in the bourgeoisie class. And you don't have to be super mega rich to be in the bourgeoisie class. Because you look at Venezuela. Venezuela, majority of the stores have nothing on the shelves because they don't know how to let people be free. They don't let markets be free to determine what are the goods and services that people need and desire. Instead, the government goes in and commands the economy and says, you're only going to get this much because we have this many resources and we're going to tell you what you need. So you get shortages on certain things that people need because they're not following what the people are asking for. Instead, they're following what they're telling people they need. And so the necessities don't get produced efficiently. And it costs the government a lot to do that because they overproduce the wrong things and they underproduce the correct things. So the things that are rare because they're not producing them enough, the price skyrockets. And the things that they overproduce, they're so cheap that they're also rare. People can buy them off the shelves for nothing because they're subsidized. So, like I was saying, in Venezuela, you have shelves in certain stores on the west. They did this Germany thing where they separate east and west. And the east is usually the leftist, communist side. On the west side, the stores have nothing. Because that's the free market side. That's the capitalist side. And when you have capitalism in a command economy, you have bankruptcy and shortage. You have nothing. But on the east side, on the communist side, those stores, the shelves are perfectly stocked. Because, of course, those are the people who vote for the communist people to stay in government. It's their people. So I vote for my people. Power to the people. Power to the people because we vote for those government people to give us the goodies like Bernie Sanders. I'll give you free college. I'm not going to pay for it. You're not going to pay for it. But somebody will. Those rich fuckers. They like that fucker word. Those rich fuckers will pay for the fuckers that make all that money. The 1%. Bernie Sanders is in the 1%. You dummies. And you support him? He buys houses that you can't even come close to affording. He's in the 1%. But he uses that word to make you mad at the free market, at the people who work for a living and are smart, and they leverage their intelligence to make a lot of money. So they're going to pay your bill to college, and that makes you okay. But yet the leftists get mad when you get this college where the people are working and they steal funds, grant funds. I forgot which college it is, but it was shocking to me that the leftists are upset that the people stole grant funds. It was like $1 million. It was Howard University. They stole $1 million worth of grant funds that they're staff, but they get a certain amount of money for education. And plus they're getting paid by the college, right? And people find out that they stole $1 million and they're pissed. What's going on there? So hold on to your guns, okay? I went way too long on the gun issue, but to me, that's enough, right? I would rather be in a room, if there are 100 people in the room, and all 100 of those people have a firearm of some sort, even if only one of them has an AR, I don't care. They could all have pistolas if they want. And if some bad guy comes into that room trying to pick off, first of all, that won't happen because the bad guys are smart. They would never go into a room full of guns because they know they don't have a chance. Instead, what they would do is they go into a room where there's no guns so that they have the ultimate advantage. But I would rather be in the room with people who are armed so that I have a gun, they have a gun, you have a gun, you have a gun, you have a gun. And that one guy is there trying to hit somebody, but you got 100 guns pointed at him. You don't even need an AR at that point because if everyone just pulled the trigger once, you got 100 rounds coming at that one guy. Where he has to pull the trigger and try to hold it down or semi-automatic to get those 100 rounds out at you ain't going to happen fast enough when everybody's armed. All it takes is one trigger pull, 1 second per person. 100 people can send out 100 rounds in 1 second. Whereas that stupid guy, he could have a high-capacity magazine of 1,000 rounds in it. But there ain't no way 1,000 rounds are going to come out of that gun in 1 second. I can't even see more than 5 coming out in 1 second. Maybe he could do 10 rounds in 1 second by himself. But with 100 armed people, you got 100 rounds in a second at that one guy. And one is bound to hit him at least. Shooting over. Mass shooting over because the people have the power. And if you're about power to the people, why would you disarm them? Part of power is arming people. And part of arming people is giving them the intelligence to recognize when they've got the power, that they shouldn't give it up so easily, especially when children are trying to tell adults how to live their lives. And kids haven't experienced anything. I would love for my 2-year-old, who can't even talk, to try to explain to me how life works. When I've been through it all, I've been through rock bottom, I've been wealthy, I've been in between, I've lived multiple lives. I've been an investment advisor, I've been a janitor, I've been a seafood fishmonger, I've been a fair representative, a county fair representative. I've been all kinds of jobs. I know a lot of things in life. To have my 2-year-old try to tell me how life works doesn't work out. And that's no disrespect to you millennials or to you young kids, Generation Z, whoever it is that's trying to say take guns away from everybody. But really, did you know that our country was founded off of guns? And that your freedom was secured by guns of the people? There was a time when Japan in the 1940s wanted to attack us. And the emperor knew better than to do that. Because he knew behind every blade of grass is an American with a firearm. And I could have an army of 100 million people. But there are 300 million people in the United States. And if every one of them is armed, you can send your 100 million to their death when they come to attack us. Because we, the people of the United States of America, are establishing our tranquility and our justice with our firearms and our speech. We arm the mind with education through free speech, which means even though I don't like David Hodges and all these other millennials, I will not ban their speech. They have every right to say whatever they want, even if it's wrong. Because who knows? There might be one element of truth in it that I never even thought of. Even though I'm against gun control, there might be an element of truth that makes me change the way I think a little bit. But I would never give up my guns, I'll tell you. I'll never give up my guns freely. If I have a choice, I will never do it. And that's the key to it. Americans who own guns will never freely choose to give up their guns. The government has to force it out of our hands. And that's the only way they will do it. They will force it out of our hands. And do you want to live in that kind of society? I don't know if you do. I don't. Now, getting to the Bitcoin part, I'm going to arm you real quick about the Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. They're crashing, and I love it. I love it. But I hold because I believe in the technology. And because I believe in the technology, I believe that you should always hold if you believe in the technology. If you don't get into it. That's speculation. You speculate off a price. You're not an investor because an investor puts money in and gets immediate return. Like real estate. You buy a house and you immediately get rent paid back to you. You buy an annuity, you get an annuity payment. You lend money, you get money paid back. So that's what I have to say to you. Hodl on, protect your rights. And to me, I think that the cryptocurrencies are going to fly. You just watch. All this pulling down of the market, whether it's manipulated or it's natural. You pull a rubber band like that and you let go, snap. It snaps up. We're going to have a bull market like you wouldn't believe. So thanks to all you guys who support me and follow me. Hit subscribe. Smash that like button, the notification button, all the above. If you want, send me a comment on Steam It, upvote, re-steam my stuff. And if you want, I have information below in the video of how you can donate Bitcoin, Litecoin, whatever the deal is if you want to send it to me. I appreciate any donation you have. You support my getting that information out to you. And if you love this content, please support me. Please. That's what I ask. I humbly ask. And I humbly appreciate any support you guys give me. Thank you very much. God bless you. Have a good Friday. Have a happy Easter. And I guess I'll see you sometime soon because I hope to be able to do videos more often. But very busy. So I apologize to all my peoples who follow that I haven't been able to get it out as soon. But I will try to do that. Take care.